Now, as we begin, I would like to tell you about Flip the Script on Plastics. Flip the Script on Plastics is an initiative to help the entertainment industry model real solutions to the plastic pollution crisis, both on set and in storylines. We know that life imitates art, and by showing package-free and reusable and refillable systems in popular television shows and movies, we can influence culture and change the perception of toxic throwaway plastic as being normal, because it's not.
Our partner organization, the Media Impact Project at the Lear Center, we did a study in partnership with the Plastic Pollution Coalition in which we analyzed the visual content of 51 hours of TV. It was 64 episodes from 32 different shows from the 2019-2020 season. And here's what we found. I mean, you can find the whole study on our website, but 28 single-use plastic items were shown per episode. So there were at least 28 different plastic bottles or other kinds of single-use plastic that were shown per episode. There was at least one, what we call a mass plastic event, which is, if you see in the image there, somebody in the grocery store where there's millions of bottles of soda behind them. There was one of those per episode. And then the striking thing is 93% of the images of plastic depicted were not disposed of in any way. So there was no recognition that these things need to be disposed of. Do they just disappear? Where do they go? Well, we didn't see any real recycling, and we didn't see them throw them away. They just magically, somehow, little elves come and take them away, which really contributes to a lack of awareness of the fact that these things are polluting our world. How can we do that without turning it into a PSA or a preachy moment? I mean, there's a scene from Reservation Dogs.
Did you know that 73% of beach litter around the globe is plastic?
You know, it was a funny, quirky thing, but it was also a piece of information.
So our show's job, in fact, is to look at the future and tell entertaining stories. And what I'm sure Austin and Emily will agree with is that it doesn't really matter what your story is if it's not entertaining. And so we all have to put away sort of our preachiness, our do-gooderness, and recognize that our first obligation is to entertain people.
So for us, it was more of having behaviors shown and normalized. That was a really big thing for us. It's, in this instance, having reusables on the camera, showing the actors with a coffee cup that is, reusable. Or you might have seen in the trailer, she was carrying a small tote bag with her the whole time. And so there's this constant reinforcement of behavior without having to talk about it, was our thought process.
Because it's the world that I get to make, or that Em and I get to make together, we now get to make it in the image that we want, be it through limiting plastic, through telling it zero waste, through having an incredibly diverse cast, in every single way that we can show our activism through art, but make that art's goal be entertainment and not a wooden plank that you're going to hit somebody over the head with. Like, it's so important to create entertainment that people want to make their favorite film, want to make their favorite television show, so that those things that we have taken for granted, like people opening up their fridges and having just water bottles in their fridges, becomes something of the past that we can look at and go, that's something we did, and now this is something we do.
Batteries are not a universal solve either, but all of these things are decisions that we all need to start making about how we can bring some consciousness within our own jobs and how we make shit.
Because as an industry, it's our responsibility to look at all these micro movements that add up to something bigger.
And until someone, tells you it's impossible, we can't do that, you have choices, and you need to exercise your choices. The pilot of our show is the big central question in it is is capitalism the driver of climate change, or is capitalism the only tool we have left now to perhaps confront climate change?
The Starbucks cup in Game of Thrones, like there you have a cup that is plastic lined so that it doesn't disintegrate when you have your coffee in it, just sitting in a medieval story, and you're like, well, that looks wrong for a multitude of reasons, and to some degree, like our kind of like, well, that's fucking awful, like that shouldn't be there, is the right response on all platforms. It shouldn't be there.
Well, I want to get to how in the world the two of you ended up with this tiny jar of trash after an entire production of a movie. So can you take us sort of step by step? What did you list out to begin with? How did you start before you went into production? You know, and what's in that jar?
He's so little.
What's in there?
It's mostly gaff tape, to be honest. Which is the tape you use on set. Basically, what we did was, Elston said, we started backwards, right? So we thought about all the different departments we were going to have to navigate and how we could do that as low waste as possible.
And because we talked to all the actors during the auditions, they knew from the very start that this was the goal of it. This is how we were going to go about it. Everybody then bought into that active choice of making a film this way. And that was really inspiring for us, because we had people that gave a shit like we did with us. And that's awesome.
Demand sustainable entertainment. You know, ask, put it out there. Where is your report card?
Show your receipts.
We should treat each other more like bands, like musicians, okay? Musicians show up at everybody's show. They play in each other's bands, right? And so film, we need to be doing the same thing. When you're making an amazing, like mindful piece about the future and what it could be, well, I'm going to be there and I'm going to watch every damn episode. I'm going to tell everybody I know about it, because that's awesome. And the more that we can just support each other that way and lift each other up and celebrate even the small wins, instead of pushing ourselves down because we didn't succeed at every level. Like, no, that's not how we're going to achieve this. We got to lift each other up and keep supporting each other and be cheerleaders. I love it. I mean, WALL-E is the perfect example of what you're talking about. Such a great film, and talking about having to leave the planet. We left it such a mess, and little WALL-E, they're cleaning it up, and we're seeing all the remnants of humanity, and do they learn or not? You know, it's a perfect example of this great narrative that you can actually chew on and have a lot of fun with.